Hi guys, this is Weekly from Weekly Disaster Games here, and today I'm going to be offering my opinion on why a little RPG called Cyberpunk 2077 might be an extremely important game to the gaming industry at large. So, let's get into it. Now, why is Cyberpunk important? Could it be the first person part of it? Could it be the RPG part of it? Could it be the graphics it's trying to push? Could it be the gameplay that it has? Could it be the character writing or the story writing? Could it be the very breathtaking Keanu Reeves? Well, it can be a variety of these things, and I think it's a combination of everything here. But before I get into that, why don't I talk about a game that actually is a little similar to what I think Cyberpunk may turn out to be. And that game is Fallout New Vegas. Now, Fallout New Vegas is a game that released back in the PS3, Xbox 360 generation. And I would say it's probably one of my favorite games, definitely in the top 10. It definitely serves as a great classic, and I believe a lot of people out there feel the same way about New Vegas. It's a game that delivers first-person shooter. Well, maybe not the best first-person shooter, but a first-person shooter nonetheless. It's a game that delivers, well, not exactly the best graphics, but hey, mods can fix that. It's a game that delivers fantastic story. That is definitely something it can do. It's a game that has really great writing. It's a game that has multiple endings for both characters, side quests, and the game as a whole. It's a game that really allows the player to dictate exactly what happens to, well, in general, a lot of factions, whether they all survive, whether some of them survive, or any other number of circumstances that may happen. The fact is, Fallout New Vegas, in a way, is a lot of the things that Cyberpunk is promising to be. It's a game that delivers a world that the player can control, and it's a game that delivers, well, a promise that you're going to get something a little special with Fallout New Vegas. And of course, it even has some well-known famous people. Maybe not as famous as the Keanu Reeves, but definitely famous people nonetheless. Now, why exactly is Fallout New Vegas something worth comparing? Well, I believe that Fallout New Vegas, when it came out, was kind of a classic, and really did push the gaming industry a little bit. Now, it did have some bugs at launch that were quite terrible, but they were updated quite a bit later, and I think the game, to this day, stands up pretty well. And if you got a PC and a little bit of the wherewithal to mod it, you can have something pretty nice on your hands. Now, of course, that's a lot of work on the consumer's end, and that's not exactly for everybody. But I believe Cyberpunk could be a bit of a sequel to Fallout New Vegas, at least spiritually. Now, of course, there's probably many of you that might be saying, oh, well, what about The Outer Worlds? That literally is a spiritual successor to New Vegas. It's made by the same guys, it's got the same humor, and, well, it's looking like it's going to be pretty awesome. And, well, I'd argue that, yes, it's going to be all of those things. But there is one thing that Cyberpunk has got over The Outer Worlds. And it's Keanu Reeves, guys! Keanu Reeves has come. He's going to save us. He's the best. And in fact, I would even go as far as to say that Keanu Reeves being placed in any game would make it a 11 out of 10. It would make it instant game of the year. And I'd imagine that if you played that game, you would be akin to something deified. You'd be enlightened to all sorts of extents, and you could be happy for the rest of your life. Yeah, kidding aside, to get back into a bit of more serious slant on the video itself, The Outer Worlds does not exactly have the same popularity as Cyberpunk. In fact, Cyberpunk's popularity eclipses many games and is dwarfing that of games that, frankly, could really use that popularity. Now, why exactly does Cyberpunk control so much popularity? Why exactly does it have so much popularity that it rivals that of Final Fantasy VII Remake, a game that is, frankly, 22 years in the making? People have wanted this thing to be remade forever. And you're telling me a brand new IP, Cyberpunk 2077, can rival that of Final Fantasy VII Remake? That's insane, that's crazy, it's nuts. And there frankly aren't too many games that could rival a remake that many years in the making. And it goes to show exactly why Cyberpunk is pulling so much. This game is crazy. It's got the entire public's mind eye on it, and the reason why is pretty simple. It's because it's coming from CD Projekt Red, and it's because they've used quite a few tactics to really show that this game is something worth paying attention to. Now, if we take a look, specifically the Witcher trilogy, we can see something a little interesting. When CD Projekt Red produced Witcher 1, it was a game of a decent quality, I would say. In fact, I would say it's a very solid game. A game that might be worth playing. But then when we look at Witcher 2, whoa! It explodes in quality. The game does way better, critically at least, and I would say that The Witcher 2 is pretty amazing, and comes close to that of Mass Effect 2. And Mass Effect 2, we're talking about a game that is definitely in the top 5 of stuff I like. And if I'm saying The Witcher 2 gets close to that, well, you can definitely tell that The Witcher 2 is something very good, and I would say is leaps and bounds ahead of the original Witcher 1. But then when we take a look at The Witcher 3, it's completely bizarre. The Witcher 3 is a game that takes everything that happened from the time between Witcher 1 and Witcher 2 and goes on a scale that is frankly exponential. The game completely increases its size, it completely increases its graphical fidelity, it adds a variety of new stories and character writing that all have the same high sterling quality, and well, it speaks for itself. The Witcher 3 did gangbusters in sales, it did gangbusters in critical reviews, and frankly, it's one of the classics of the modern generation. All this from guys that made The Witcher 1. All this from guys that haven't really made too many games. All this from guys that simply just translated their games in their native language. These guys are exactly the type of people that know how to improve. They know how to look at their mistakes, they know how to look critically at their older games, and they know how to deliver quality at a scale that just frankly keeps on going up. And this is the reason why CD Projekt Red has so much pull within the consumer base of the gaming industry at large. Every time they make something, they try to make it better than the thing that came before. And frankly, they've lived up to the hype every time. Now, why is Cyberpunk so important here? Well, it's a game in a completely new sphere, first-person shooter. It's a game in a completely new setting, that of sci-fi, and it's something that's going to be pushing a lot of different things out the door. You see, the last time we got a first-person shooter RPG with some choice, that was worth its salt anyway, I would say would be Fallout New Vegas. Now, of course, there is Fallout 4, and I don't want to throw too much shade on it, but it is my opinion that Fallout 4 isn't quite the game it should have been. In fact, I am very disappointed with how that game turned out. And don't even get me started about Fallout 76. That is not something even worth mentioning. I'm not going to be singing the Country Road song here. The fact of the matter is, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be one of the newest games that actually harkens back to the classic of Fallout New Vegas, to the classic of the original Deus Ex. It's a game that's going to be channeling choice, it's going to be channeling RPG, and it's a game that's going to really try to push boundaries across all sorts of places. And well, I believe should be a role model if the game does exactly what it promises to do. And if we only take a look at what happened with The Witcher 3 and how it served as a role model, we can already see that the gaming industry at large has already benefited from this. Take a look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey. These guys have actually admitted that Witcher 3 served as an inspiration, and I would argue that if it wasn't for The Witcher 3, Assassin's Creed Odyssey may not have turned out as good as it did in a vacuum. Now, with that being said, what happens if a game that's even better than The Witcher 3, that's in a first-person shooter space, comes out with a brand new IP behind it and demonstrates to the gaming industry at large, hey, this is what happens when you make a game that takes chance, runs with it, and does gangbusters. What happens when we have a role model like that on our hands? Well, I can't really see the future, but I imagine at least one of the big AAA companies might try to emulate it. Now, will they do it well? Probably not. But if they can get even close to Cyberpunk, well, there you go. We just got two good games for the price of one, and it only took about a couple years. You see, that is exactly why Cyberpunk is important. It's important because if the game comes out fantastically well, lives up to all the hype that's been placed on it, and sells extremely well, we're dealing with a game that can push the gaming industry into a whole new sphere and may usher in a brand new era of classic AAA games that can truly hold their salt. Stuff that harkens back to the Xbox 360 days. You see, back then, games only improved. Now, of course, this could just be the nostalgia talking, but a lot of times I'd play a game and then I'd play the next one, and whoa, it was better. They stepped up the graphics, they stepped up the writing, they stepped up the quality, and well, it was really nice for a time, and it gave me the idea that in the PS4 generation, that we would see games continually improving as time went on. Unfortunately, that did not happen. The AAA industry, at least, has tried to emulate the mobile gaming industry, and have tried to deliver games that, well, frankly, want to keep you engaged. They're not really concerned with a beginning, middle, or end, or anything that comes with, well, in my opinion, games that are meaningful. Of course, I'm not going to delve too much into that. That's a topic on its own, and that's a topic that's been covered to death by all sorts of people. But if Cyberpunk comes out as a perfectly fantastic game, with not a lot of the BS that games these days have, and serves as a role model for the future, well, I believe that's exactly why Cyberpunk 2077 is important. So yeah, guys, that's been my opinion on Cyberpunk and why it's important to the gaming industry. I definitely hope it lives up to the hype. I'll be crossing my fingers for it, because not only do I get a great game, but it's a game that can dictate the industry at large and maybe have a ripple effect of producing other great games. And I gotta say, it's pretty nice that this is an RPG that we're talking about here. It's really cool. And I definitely think there's some interesting stuff here and stuff that is worth covering in the future. So look forward to any news or maybe gameplay videos about Cyberpunk. I'll definitely be covering them as they come in. Don't worry though, this is not going to be the focus of the channel. The focus of the channel is RPGs, and that's exactly what I talk about the most here. So yeah, guys, if you liked what I had to say, you can like it. If you have any comments or feedbacks or suggested topics, you can leave them down below. And if you really want to see any more content about RPGs in general, well, subscribe, and I'm sure you'll be pleased. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and this is going to be Weekly out.